Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's Emma, and today is going to be a little bit of a 100k special because I'm going to be recommending you 100 different books. If you are looking for something to read, sit down, we're gonna find you something. We're gonna try our best. So these aren't random recommendations by any means. I asked all of you for very specific, oddly particular book requests that you have been searching for, and so I have a list of 100 of your requests for different books. Oh boy. Thank you so much for being here on this channel. If you would like to subscribe, that's amazing, and let's just get into it. Hello? What would you like? There's a book for that. Alright, the request is books that are so bizarre, but weirdly good. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to recommend The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. This is a classic. This is one of the first Gothic classics. I read this in October, and it was so bizarre. If it's any indication of how weird this book gets, on the first page, one of our characters, a young man, is killed by a giant falling helmet. From there, it devolves into this weird haunted house fever dream. There's ghouls, there's ghosts, there's spooky, scary skeletons, and I just think it's so bizarre, but I also really like it. Alright, next we have a request for books with intimate, beautiful writing that will move me and make me feel deeply. For this one, I'm gonna say Snow by Orhan Pamuk because this is very intimate in the way that like the narrator himself is a character, and at some points when our protagonist, who is this man named Ka, he's an exiled poet who has recently returned from Germany to Turkey, and more specifically to Istanbul, and then he takes a trip to the border city of Kars, but our narrator will stop when, for example, maybe Ka is asleep or something, and then he will start to address us, the reader, and it just makes it very intimate. The fourth wall is completely just knocked down, and it's just so good. The writing is gorgeous. There's so much beautiful writing about snow and falling snow, which also makes things feel very intimate, and it definitely moved me deeply. One of my favorite reads of the year so far, so there you go. Oh my gosh, that's only 2. Hello, yes, what would you like? A book to read on the train when you move to Boston in September. Let me see what I can do. Agatha Christie, where have you gone? Alright, so this is a book that I have always wanted to read on a train. I don't know, it's like a dream of mine, but it's Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. I don't think I could not recommend this because when I thought of like perfect train books, I was just like, it has to be a book about a train as well. And it is about people going different places, moving to new locales. It is a murder mystery, and as you can imagine, there is a huge cast of characters. It's just a very nice, cozy little murder mystery where everyone gets snowed in on this train, they get stopped, and there is a murder, and then our detective comes in and has to find out what has happened, who's the prime suspect, and stuff like that. Hopefully your train ride to Boston goes a bit smoother, no murder on the tracks, so that is that one. Next up, we have something that has dark academia vibes in the 1800s or 1900s with beautiful writing and a pretty cover. Okay, so for this one, I'm just going to recommend Frankenstein by Mary Shelley because, first of all, it's so good. It's also published 1818, so you're perfect for the time frame. And as well, Victor Frankenstein does go to school. That's kind of where he is studying at when he starts to create his monster. And he starts to collect the body parts and stuff like that. He is studying at university, so it is a little bit dark academia in that way, and as well it has inspired so many more gothic and spooky and dark books. This cover is also beautiful, so I don't think you can go wrong with Frankenstein. I think it's just, it's brilliant. Someone would like something completely the opposite, which is something that makes me happy and feels like summer. Alright, so I want to say like 90% of these I've read, but this is one that I haven't, and that's Beach Read by Emily Henry. I am saving this one for summer. I know you didn't ask specifically for a romance, but this one is definitely a quintessential summer book. We're following 2 writers, and they basically swap books with each other that they're writing. They swap their manuscripts because they don't think either of them could write like the other. She writes, I think, romance and light fluffy books, and he writes kind of, you know, more literary or something like that work. So they switch, and they're staying at this beach house and stuff like that together, and I think hopefully it should just make you feel happy and very summery, of course, so that is Beach Read. For an immersive book, I'm definitely going to recommend Evil Eye by Madhuri Shikar. This one is so good. This is an audiobook, so I would highly recommend getting your hands on the audio if you can, because it's all told through a series of phone calls and emails and text messages and stuff like that. It is supernatural thriller, horror as well, but it's so immersive because it's a full cast audiobook, and just like when you're listening into their phone calls and stuff like that, it made me feel so unsettled, so disturbed, and it just worked so much to make me feel unsettled and disturbed because I just felt like I was like there in the book. Incredible. Except someone would like some book that changes the way I see and perceive things in the world in general. For this one, I would definitely recommend Eating Animals, which is all about factory farming, why we eat animals, how we eat animals, specifically maybe why we don't need to eat animals, the philosophical, moral implications, ethics, stuff like that. And it just really, I think, provides you some super good insight into factory farming and the world of eating animals, and possibly a world where we don't have to do that. Oh my gosh, yes, hello? What would you like? A book about someone living in nature and connecting with the earth? Okay. Alright, for this one I'm going to recommend Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. This is also a fairy tale retelling, but as you can imagine, we follow our protagonist, and actually for most of this book, she doesn't speak. She can't speak because she's trying to break a curse that has been set on her 6 brothers, and so she just stumbles through the forest. She is such a pure spirit, and she's just so connected with the earth. She knows kind of what to look for, how to live, and stuff like that, and it's just a really nice fantasy frolic through the forest. Basically, it's called Daughter of the Forest, so I think this one would definitely be perfect for you. I love this request. This is for a book with a really good dinner party, and so I'm going to recommend The Immortal Evening by Stanley Plumley. This is actually kind of a nonfiction. I believe it's more of a narrative nonfiction, but it is a legendary dinner with Keats, Wordsworth, and Lamb. So this whole book is about an actual dinner party that happened in the 19th century between these just really great artists, and all of the inspiration that was flowing at the table, what they were talking about, the momentous conversations that resulted in the change of art and of literature and of everything like that. So it just details their dinner party, which is just so amazing. Someone would like a best book to introduce me to ancient Greek literature. So I'm definitely going to recommend the Oresteia by Aeschylus, which is 3 plays that make up the Oresteia. I just think this one is super accessible, and Aeschylus is kind of one of the founding fathers of tragedy in ancient Greece. I think this is a great starting point, a great point to dive in. It's full of emotional intensity. It really makes you aware of kind of what goes into a lot of Greek tragedy, and as well it has a little bit of mythology, talks about the Trojan War, the aftermath. You get a little bit of setup of the justice system in Athens and stuff like that, and I think all around it's just like a really great introduction, not only for enjoyment but for kind of study and learning and educational purposes as well. Would highly recommend. Oh my god, my knees crack every time. Every time. Okay, this one I love. A book to make me feel like Padme Amidala. Queen. My inspiration. My icon, honestly. Okay, there's honestly a few that comes to mind, but I think one that I just can't keep myself from recommending is The Queen's Shadow by E.K. Johnston, because this is a book, a Star Wars novel, all about Padme and her life. It focuses mostly on her and her group of handmaidens and like their whole lives, because there's not just one of them. We really get to know basically all of them and their world and stuff like that, and her place going into the Senate and all of the difficulties that she faces. And I just love Star Wars novels. I cannot believe I haven't read one yet in 2020, but this one I would love to read more. I know there's like a sequel to this as well, so I would definitely suggest checking this one out. This is how democracy dies. Okay, next we are looking for books that vibe. The vibiest book, is that a word? I don't know. But the one that just certainly absolutely came to mind is After Dark by Haruki Murakami. this book is just like a whole other world, and it is a whole other world. This is a set of encounters set in late night Tokyo. This whole book just takes place over one night. We just follow people stumbling around in the dark. We follow different people. We follow two sisters. One of them is like perpetually asleep, stuck in this sleep. We follow a jazz musician. We follow a worker, a manager at a love hotel. It's just so incredible. It also provides you with an amazing soundtrack to the book. There's so many different songs mentioned, and there's also like timestamps about what time it is when you start that chapter, and I think it would be just amazing. And kind of like what I did when I read it was, first of all, listen to each song that was kind of listed at the time that it was listed, but I think it would be even cooler to like read this book slowly over one night with the timestamp, if that makes sense. So this is just, I just can't describe it. So good. Someone wants sand between your toes, sun on your face, and the smell of sunscreen. The book that immediately comes to mind, it is a series. It's a young adult series that I read one of these every single summer, every time I would go to a cottage in the summer. It took me 3 years. I don't know why I did it this way, because I could have just read them all, but the series is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. This is about a girl named Belly, and each summer she goes to a beach house with her mother's best friend. It's like the two moms, and then they have two sons, Conrad and I don't remember the other one because I like Conrad. And then you just follow their kind of summer romance, they're growing up, they're kind of coming of age, and it's just sunscreen in a book. And especially like I think my books are actually coated in sunscreen. They're like at my house because they're a bit of a young adult series, but definitely this one. Okay, number 15 is a classic that I would recommend for people who are 16 or 17 years old. I feel like when I was 16 or 17, I would have adored Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I think I read this when I was like 18 maybe, but this one just worked really well for me. It's incredibly accessible, it's exciting, it's dystopia, it's just really easy to fall into and get into. It's about a lot of different important topics, and I think growing up, especially at that time as well, they really meant a lot to me, and they really provided me with a lot of important information about the world and the world I was growing up in, possible worlds I could have grown up in, possible worlds other people might grow up in, and it was just really, really good as well. So this one. Okay, my recommendation for a graphic novel or manga is so extremely biased. In the Name of the Moon. It's Sailor Moon. This is my favorite manga I've ever read. I know it's not maybe like objectively the best, but it's just like been such a part of my childhood that I can't recommend anything other than Sailor Moon. It's honestly just like pure serotonin injected into my veins, and it's just incredible. I just love it so much. I would read it like literally over and over again, so this is the one I have to recommend. Hello? Oh, that is a nice one. Yes. Okay, there's a book for that. Someone would like to know what is a book that I would read in Paris at a cafe in the nighttime. Listen, Emma, you can't keep talking about family opera. People are getting sick of it. Would I read anything else if I was in Paris at a cafe in the nighttime? Would I realistically read anything other than Phantom of the Opera? I can see it. I've just stumbled out of the opera house. I've been really disappointed that I've not been abducted. And I'm sitting there drinking some coffee. I have to read it. I have to read this. I have to read this. It's Phantom of the Opera. A fantasy book I would recommend. Ooh, this one's really good. I just made my mom read these, actually. I don't have the third book, and now she's really mad about it. The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. I love this series so much. It is just so good. It's actually set far in the future where society has reverted back to kind of like a medieval feudal society. It is so good. We're following Kelsey, and she finds out that she's now had to like kind of inherit the kingdom and the Tearling, because the Tearling is the kingdom and stuff like that. So good. So good. This series just got me through so much in 2019. One of the best. Books with elements of science, but not really science fiction. I love books with elements of science. I think one of the most recent ones I've read I'm going to recommend is Little Gods. This is about a mother who is a very prominent kind of genius physicist, and she is trying to find out what would happen if kind of our perception of time and entropy and stuff like that ran the other way, which is really interesting. And we also follow her daughter in kind of a present timeline, and she is now in America, and she has to go back and see kind of what might have happened with her mother now that her mother has passed away. Really good. Okay, so for a heart-tearing and moving classic, I'm going to recommend Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, because this one just literally makes me want to rip up the earth and like lay down in a grave and just sit there. This one is incredible. It's a tragic love story, but it's just so powerful, so ghostly, so ghoulish, so transcendent, and it's just so good. It's like soul shredding. Hello? Oh, you want a lighthearted book with pirates and possibly a romance with really strong female friendships? We've got you covered. Okay, so I was going to recommend Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller, but they actually said that they read this one, so instead I'm going to recommend The Aeronaut's Windlass by Kevin Butcher. This one is steampunk, so we have a little bit of a different take on pirates, but I do remember there being really strong female friendships. There's definitely romance, so I would recommend giving either of these ones a try. Okay, I had a lot of requests for feel-good books, books that would make you smile, just really cozy, lighthearted, fun books. So I need to recommend Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, because so good, just so good. It'll make you smile, it'll make your heart grow a few sizes, and I just adore it. So this one I had to go back through my Goodreads all the way to like 2012 or 2013 because someone wanted a book with multiple character focused, coming of age, slice of life, and a hint of fantasy. So I really had to search far and low, but I finally found one that is absolutely perfect, and that one is The Way We Bared Our Souls by Willa Strayhorn. This one is set, I believe, in New Mexico, and we follow a group of maybe 5 or 6 teenagers. They all have a lot going on in their life. Some of them are dealing with different sorts of trauma, some of them are dealing with the relationships, they're all coming of age, and so they all go out at kind of like this camp out sleepover in the desert, and they have a fire, and then I think something fantasy kind of element starts to happen, and then the next morning they wake up and everything is different. So this one I think covers all your bases. Okay, something that will make me feel alive again, like a spring breeze that moves through you. Rilke. It's always Rilke. Rilke is the spring breeze. Any spring breeze you feel on your face, it's Rilke. The Book of Hours is a collection of poetry. It's one of my favorite works in the whole entire universe. And I think it just gives you what you need. It like adds on little puzzle pieces to your soul, and it's just incredibly beautiful, breathtaking, but also like breath-giving, you know? So this one, please. Oh God, please, this one. Okay, someone has a very specific one. I want to walk by a body of water, enjoying the day peacefully, and somehow the peace is broken. Okay, so this one I'm going to recommend When We Were Orphans by Kazuo Ishiguro, because this book has a lot. This book starts out very soft, very quiet. You're kind of being lulled by our protagonist and his narrative. He is now a grown-up adult man, and he is in kind of high society UK in drawing rooms and stuff like that, and he tells us that he is a detective, which has kind of been his lifelong dream ever since his parents went missing when he was a child in Shanghai. The way this book unwinds, I'm not going to say anything other than that, but like the piece is definitely dismantled, destroyed, ripped apart, and it's the kind where like maybe when you are walking by a pond or something and suddenly something splashes and falls into it and like creates all these ripples, you had no idea it was coming, you had no idea what to expect, and it was just excellent. Okay, then we have Two Nerds Fall in Love. Bonus points if steamy. Okay, we're going for the bonus points because I'm going to recommend Can't Escape Love. This one I've also not read, but it's really high up on my books I kind of want to buy list. This is about 2 people. They're both nerds. I think one of them is either in like computer science or like tech or something like that. It just sounds so cute, I know it's steamy. I know it's like kind of maybe a reluctant falling in love kind of thing, so can't escape love. A book that will make me want to finish my English degree and fall in love with reading again. 100 Years of Solitude, 100 Years of Solitude, 100 Years of Solitude, 100 Years of Solitude, 100 Years of Solitude. Reading this just made me feel alive again. It reminded me why I love studying literature. It just reminded me of everything, why reading is so incredible. This one. Here, take it. This one. One of you would like a super atmospheric dark academia, so I'm going to recommend the series Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. It is technically dark academia. We are set at a school in Virginia, and we're following Stevie, who's pretty much like her own kind of certified true crime detective, and they're at a school. It's like fall time. There's like so many scenes with food and maple syrup and everything good in the world, and it's just so dark, creepy, but also so atmospheric and cozy. It's kind of the coziest dark academia I've ever read, so Truly Devious. Someone would like the found family trope. All of us on this channel. I'm going to recommend The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This is a book about a man named Linus Baker, and he finds a family. There's fantasy, there's romance, there's pretty much whimsy, everything you could want, so this one. A book about literature and the love of reading. I miss reading books about books. Matilda by Roald Dahl. This one will not do you wrong. It's just so good. I'm due for a reread. This one. Something melancholy and beautiful. Snow Country by Yasunari Kawabata. This is so good. Also one of my favorite reads of the year. It's a tragic love story. So melancholy. It's got a lot of melons. Snow Country. There's actually no melons. I lied. Hello. Books that will change your perspective. So I'm going to recommend Why Buddhism is True by Robert Wright. This is a nonfiction all about kind of like objective reality and also evolutionary psychology and stuff like that through the eyes of Buddhism, which is just good. Someone would like a book that will take them back to childhood again, make them feel magic and believe in things again. I'm going to recommend The Dark Hills Divide by Patrick Carman. This is one of my favorite middle grade series ever. It is delicious. It is so good. Don't recommend eating the hardcover. It might be a little bit too chewy and tough. Oh my god, Emma, stop. This is about Alexa, and she goes on a journey, and there's talking animals. The Dark Hills Divide. Someone wanted a really good classic fantasy book. The Lord of the Rings. Someone would like a book with prose so beautiful you forget to breathe, and you have to stop yourself and catch a breath. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I cried because this was so good. I literally couldn't breathe because this book was so good. For a multi-generational family saga, I'm going to recommend Pachinko by Min-Jin Lee. This one is set in Korea. Follows so many different people. So many people have been yelling at me to scream this book. No. Screaming at me to read this book. And I promise I'm going to get around to it. Hey! You want a book that makes you feel like entering a secret garden and also mysterious and lush? Okay. Yeah, you're using it to call me right now. I just suggest reading your phone, actually. Okay. It's The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. So good. The most lush, descriptive prose you will ever read. It does feel like a secret garden because there's so many little different details and elements in here. This one is set in India in 1969. Highly recommend. Someone would like fantasy that is magical and whimsical above all. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I think this is now the dictionary definition of whimsy and magic. This is about a circus and fantasy and goodness. Someone would like Harry Potter, but not by J.K. Rowling. I'm going to recommend A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is also about a magic school where people go to study magic, but I think there's also the added bonus that the school is trying to actively kill its students. So, commentary on the education system. Hey, what's up? Rich people problems. Oh. I'd recommend listening to Champagne Problems by Taylor Swift first. The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby is rich people problems to the extreme. I love it, but also such a good book and also such a good commentary on rich people problems. And also, this book just feels like Champagne Problems by Taylor Swift. Yes. Summer in New York Vibes. The City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. Do yourself a favor. A classic to make me forget the world is on fire. I think you've just got to do it. I think you've just got to read Pride and Prejudice. There's no fire. There's no fire except excellent boiled potatoes. So this one. Okay, something similar to Autobiography of Red, which is an excellent book by Anne Carson. A novel in verse and LGBT representation. I'm going to recommend The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This one is in verse. It's got all the representation you need, and it's just, I've heard it's so good. A calm book about how interesting normal people can be. Postmodern street beauty. Love it. Okay, so because you want postmodern, I shall not recommend The Beats, the Beat Boys, the Backstreet Beat Boys. But I'm gonna recommend White Noise by Don DeLillo. I'm not sure if this one 100% covers everything you want. It is postmodern. I'm not sure how much street beauty technically is in here, but this follows a family and they're going through a lot in their life. It is about, the people around us and stuff like that, but it's also a lot about media and just everything like that. So maybe check this one out. Someone would like dark fantasy where the main characters are incredibly precious and they either mature or grow up together. I'm gonna recommend Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton because I would die for a lot of these main characters. They are incredibly precious to me. I would say if you don't like the first book, just keep going because I didn't really love the first book, but the next two, yes, and they do definitely mature and grow up together. A book that makes you feel like you're in a dream in the best way possible. Kiki's Delivery Service by Yaiko Kadono. Hello? A book that will make you feel like an insignificant little speck of nothing in a vast void of space. Okay, we all have our kinks. I'm gonna recommend Micromegas by Voltaire. This is literally about being an insignificant little speck of nothing, a wretched worm in the vast earth dirt that is space, so knock yourself out, I guess. A calm book where not much happens, but it's interesting enough for you to keep reading. Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. Highly recommend Mrs. Dalloway. Something with time travel, but ideally historical/mystery. Well, I can't help but recommend Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Time travel, historical, Scotland. You can. For post-apocalyptic theme books, one of the best books I've ever read is A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller Jr. So good, so good. That one. Someone would like a fun light mystery à la Agatha Christie. For this one, I'm gonna have to recommend The Weston Game. I read this one years ago. Very sweet, but also there's a lot of mystery and potentially darker things happening. The Weston Game. Something with hot weather, the countryside, and similar to the Call Me By Your Name setting. A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. This one's also set in Italy, and it's the countryside, and it's hot, it's sweltering, there's romance. Here you go. Intellectual romance, deep romance, books about more than physical attraction. Okay, this one's a little bit of a weird one, so it might not be entirely up the alley that you're looking for. But I'm gonna recommend He, She, and It by Marge Piercy. This is science fiction, and it's about a woman who falls in love with an AI. It is super deep and intellectual, and like as you can imagine, there's a lot of commentary and stuff like that about love in here. And there's just so much more than that. So He, She, and It. Books like The Secret History. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is another dark academia. I think liked it better than The Secret History, so this one. I really like this one. Something that makes me feel like I live in a small oceanside town, but not beachy. Cliff E. For this one, I'm gonna have to say House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. This is also a fairy tale retelling. It's super dark, super gothic. It's like ocean gothic, but not beach at all. It's not happy beach time. It's sad cliff time. There's huge cliffs. The atmosphere is just lush and gorgeous. There's grottos, there's caves, lots of mountains and cliff and ocean action, so this one. For a villain origin story, I'm going to say something a little bit different, and I'm going to recommend Circe by Madeline Miller because this technically is a villain origin story since she is a villain in the Odyssey. If you haven't read this one, I think it's one of the best villain origin stories ever, because just the take on it and what you really get to see behind the scenes, and especially Cersei growing up. Hey, how are you? Are you doing okay? Okay, someone would like a book that will help you heal from a breakup. This one's a little bit of a recommendation I'm going to explain, because I'm going to recommend One Day by David Nichols. This is about two people, and then we follow them on one day for the rest of their lives. Like the one specific day in the year, I think it's in July. So we follow Emma and Dexter, and then where they are in their lives on that particular one day. And it just really shows you like how valuable connection is, no matter if it lasts, no matter if it's romantic, no matter if you split apart and come back together, or you come back together and then split apart. I think it's just really beautiful representation of relationships and healing at different times from different relationships, even when different relationships is just one relationship that has evolved continuously. So, One Day. For a good introduction to classical literature, The Broken Wings by Khalil Gibran. Yes, 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 yes. Here you go. Lyrical, beautiful writing. I want to stare at the wall after every sentence in awe. Autobiography of Red by Anne Carson. One which will accompany me in my adventure of living on my own for the first time. If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha. Hands down. So good. One which will hold me while I deal with my beloved grandmother's death. The Dark Interval, and I sincerely hope you're okay. I think this book will hold you so magnificently. Something that will make me feel like it's okay to not know what I want to do with my life. Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, and this one as well, I have to explain a little bit because our protagonist in here, she knows exactly what she wants to do with her life. She wants to work at this convenience store forever. She loves it, but it's also about everyone around her and how they don't appreciate her choice. They don't think it's valid. They don't think it conforms to what she should be doing. And so just like seeing through the eyes of someone who knows vehemently what they want to do, but when that isn't accepted by everyone around them, I think is just such a powerful tool. And it really lets you know that like it's okay not to know what you want to do, because there is no right way to do anything. There's no right way to go about having a career or anything like that. And it just provided like a lot of comfort as well. Brazilian literature, Agua Viva, Clarice Lispector. Just Clarice Lispector in general, please, here, you can have mine. Escapism, good description of food, and aesthetic. I'm going to recommend The Blood Spell by C.J. Redwine. This is a Cinderella retelling. The food, it just made me hungry for one straight week while I was reading this. Classics that have a similar vibe to Frankenstein. I'm going to say The Monk by Matthew Lewis. Someone would like a dark enemies to lover fantasy. I'm going to have to say A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. This is definitely enemies to lovers. It's also a Hades and Persephone retelling, kind of set in a modern alternate universe, so. And then kind of similarly, someone would like a hot trash YA paranormal romance with Twilight vibes. Definitely some hot trash, I would say. Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco is definitely warm garbage. A thriller that's not too spooky, but also not too boring. I'm gonna say You by Carolyn Kepnes. This one's definitely not like too spooky, but also not too boring. I just thought it was really interesting. This one is so sweet. A recommendation for my cat, Fiona. I love to read out loud to her. I'm gonna say The Traveling Cat Chronicles, because this one's about a cat. Okay, well-written young adult or adult fantasy, ideally vampires or witches. Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice for sure. I think this novel is just such a treat. For poetry that makes me feel, I'm going to recommend Percy Bysshe Shelley. I don't think you can go wrong with Shelley. I think his writing is just gorgeous, and it does make me feel everything. Something that made me cry, sad tears and happy tears, but mostly sad tears. War and Peace. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. War and Peace. War and Peace. War and Peace. Cleared out my aqueducts. Something about a quiet female heroine. I'd probably have to say The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe. Just because Emily in here, wait, is her name Emily? Yeah. Just because Emily in here, I think she's very quiet, but like she gets stuff done. She faints a few times, but she gets stuff done. A lot of you guys asked about kind of something similar to this, something that motivates me to continue with my life while working a 9-to-5 job and being extremely unhappy. I didn't really know what to recommend. I think honestly I might do a whole video about these because I got an alarming amount of comments like that, which makes me so incredibly sad. And I think literature is one of the best ways to kind of escape that and to fall into something else. For this time round, I'm going to recommend Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, just because when I read this, I was in high school, but I was experiencing almost kind of something the same. Long hours doing something you weren't happy with. Reading Cloud Atlas just reminded me of the world that was out there and of what you can do in that world. We follow a whole bunch of different people in different jobs themselves, and it's just about like, even if you think what you're doing is insignificant, it never is, and it just gave me so much hope and happiness, and just like made me want to live again. A book that will make me feel immersed in another world. Not loving this one right now. I'm gonna say the Illuminae File series by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is the second book, but this one like I just fell right into. It's told in multimedia form, and it just like transports you away. It's like such a binge worthy series, I think, and it's just so good. I think one of my favorite young adult series ever. For an underrated classic, I'm gonna say The Posthumous Memoirs of Bras Cubas. This one. I cannot wait to read this. I'm currently reading The Alienist and the short stories by the same author. Yes, this. Okay, I'm really getting a workout today running back and forth. Okay, a popular book worth the hype. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A book that tricks you into thinking you know what's happening, but then the plot twists. Definitely The Silent Patience by Alex Michaelides. What a twist. Someone requested feel-good gay romance, so I have to recommend Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I read this probably like 7 years ago or something. So good. For Japanese literature recommendations, I need to recommend Mishima, and this one here is Confessions of a Mask. So good. I have so many different Mishima books on my shelves, but I think this one is probably a good place to start. Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. What's up? Yes, there is a book for that. Someone would like some underrated fantasy where there aren't wars and kingdoms or fairies hanging around. All right, prepare yourself for a big one then, because this is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. As far as I know, no fairies, no wars, no kingdoms. Well, I mean, there's probably some war. There is, I think, some mention of, you know, wars and kingdoms and stuff like that, but it's set in England, so it's maybe not kind of like the fantasy tropes of wars and kingdoms that you would be thinking of when it comes to kind of different fantasy worlds, because this one is set in England, so maybe this is something you would be looking for. Okay, the first book that came to mind when someone asked for a book about a group of friends or lifelong friendship was A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. For Russian literature, I actually want to recommend you the book I'm currently reading, which is First Love by Ivan Turgenev. This one, so good. It just took a twist that I wasn't expecting. It's also extremely short. I think it's a good introduction as well, because this is my first Turgenev, so yes. Okay, for lesbian books that have somewhat of a happy ending, I'm gonna recommend She Drives Me Crazy. This is also like a very new release, 2021, and I know it's set in high school. I think we follow a basketball player and a cheerleader, and then they get in a car crash with each other, and they're like worst enemies to begin with, and I think it has somewhat of a happy ending. So for books for hot girls who are in a reading slump, hi. I'm gonna recommend My Brilliant Friend by Lena Ferrante, because this is a book about two girls and their friendship, but it's so immersive that I like had to listen to it almost all in a couple sittings, because it was just so captivating, so breathtaking, and you just fell like right into it. So I would really recommend to get you out of a reading slump, and also it's set in Naples, and it's super warm. Friendship, so good. So for a book that inspires you to be creative and make art again, I know there's been a lot of Rilke on this 100 book list, but I can't not. This one. If I could, I would send everyone a copy of this book. So for a recommendation for a fairy tale retelling, I have to recommend Entwined by Heather Dixon. This is a retelling of The 12 Dancing Princesses, because so good. Just so good. For a cozy, gothic, dark classic, I'm gonna have to say Dracula by Bram Stoker. Yes. Very cozy, very dark, very gothic, and also strangely funny sometimes. A book that will encourage me that it's fine to pretend to be someone I'm not at the moment, but want to be. I'm gonna say Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. This copy's falling apart, but this is about Pip, who gets swept up via an anonymous benefactor into high society, and he moves to London, and he's kind of like trying his best to blend in with something that he's not and be something that he's not. This book is basically like him in disguise and trying to fit in with this world, and it's just so good. And at the end, like, you really see like what this has done for him and to him and the effects that it's had on him, but also how really it's okay, and how it's okay to pretend to be something you're not right now, but something maybe you want to strive for or try to be. And I think there's so much more to it than that as well, obviously, but that is Great Expectations. Okay, someone would like something that is sad, lonely, and introspective. I'm gonna say The Thief by Fuminori Nakamura, because this was so dark, very lonely, very sad. You follow our protagonist, who is a thief. He's a pickpocket, and what he's doing and what his life is like and how that goes for him. So noir, so dark, but so good. Someone said one that will make me feel the same way you did when you fed the deer in your vlog. I'm gonna say The Year of the Hare by Arto Pasolina, because so good. So good. This is about a guy and his rabbit. Okay, a book that feels like Murakami but isn't. I'm gonna say Number 9 Dream by David Mitchell. David Mitchell, I think, is actually heavily inspired by Murakami and loves Murakami, so it's no surprise that this one is set in Japan and has to do with the Japanese underworld and strange things going on. We have a number 9, we have dreams, we have weird things going on, and so he's like trying to find his father in Tokyo, and then he gets swept up into like this underworld, maybe fantasy dream world, I don't know. So that is Number 9 Dream. Someone wants a book that will be like, hey, maybe being single for the rest of your life isn't the only option. I'm gonna say The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Yeah, made me feel a type of way. Someone wants thick books, good books of any genre that are over 300 pages. Alright, so for gothic cottagecore, I love that. I'm gonna recommend The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. Very short, very gothic, but also we have island, we have plants, we have mad scientists doing things to said animal and plants. Someone would like the most unsettling and horrifying book that I can recommend. For a book that feels like a Studio Ghibli movie, but isn't, The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. The Girl Who Drank the Moon. Oh my gosh. So good. One of my favorite books of the year. Hey, what's up? We're almost closing up shop. Is there something you needed? Yeah. Okay. Yep, go. Okay, sci-fi? End of the world? No romance. Okay. And a female author. Alright, we're gonna have to get back to you on that one. Yep, hi, we found it. Yeah, it's called The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Yes. There's some romance, but it's kind of minimal, like very minimal. So good, very high concept fantasy. Definitely end of the world. So good. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have a good time with that one. Yes, hello. Oh, you again? Yeah. Okay, what is it this time? Yes, magical realism. Okay, so it's called The House of the Spirits. Yep, Isabel. Yes, Allende, that is the one. Allende, yes. So good. Magical realism. Very similar to 100 Years of Solitude, actually, but yeah. Okay, and we're actually going to do a bonus one because there's just so many good ones. I might do another video with you guys about this because you sent in so many, but someone with like a retelling of Greek or Roman myth. So therefore, the very last book I'm going to recommend you in this 100K 100 special book recommendations video is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker, retelling of the Iliad. So good. We did it! We did it. There you go, 100 books. Thank you so much for sending in your recommendations. I had so much fun. Like I said, I might do another video with you guys about this because I have so many more than just these 100. So thank you so much for being here. This was incredible. I hope you found the books that you wanted or that you needed. Yeah, feel free to give me a shout if you need anything else. And I think I'm gonna close up shop, shut down the library, go have breakfast, and go read books that I need in my own life. So thank you so much. I love you guys so much, and I hope this was fun. Ciao.